I'm Gina Duvernay. Thank you all for coming out. I'm the Adult Services Manager for Gwinnett County Public Library, and I have the privilege of organizing author talks for adults such as yourself. So I thought you all might like Omar Tyree. I think I was right. But no, we can only continue to do these programs if you come out. So thank you for coming out, and thank you for supporting the bookstore that we partner with tonight, Read It Again Books. That's the new trilogy, brand new covers. So you want to get those, and we'll have a book signing after if you'd like, outside of this room. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the bios because you don't want to hear from me all night. Oh, I'm getting confirmation that you don't. Okay. So I'm going to read the bios and then turn it over to our moderator for the evening, who is Dr. Jacinta Saffold. She is an assistant professor of African American literature and culture at the University of Delaware, where she teaches African American literature and hip hop studies. She is currently working on her first monogram, Books and Beats: The Cultural Kinship of Street Lit and Hip Hop, and the Essence Book Project, a computational collection of popular African American literature. She's pretty bad. And tonight, our featured author is none other than bestselling author Omar Tyree, who is the winner of the 2001 NAACP Image Awards for Outstanding Literary Work in Fiction and the 2006 Phyllis Wheatley Literary Award for Body of Work in Urban Fiction. He has published more than 20 books featuring African American people and culture, including 5 New York Times best-selling novels. Omar is a popular national speaker and a strong advocate of urban literacy. Born and raised in Philadelphia, Omar now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hi, I am so happy to be here. As a light-skinned, hazel-eyed Black woman, I just want to give you your flowers. And seeing people like me, when I was 15, when I first picked up Flyy Girl, to who I am now today. You don't need to know how old I am today. But seeing the evolution of Tracy Ellison throughout the trilogy has been almost a mirror to myself. So I just want to give you a second round of applause, if that's okay. So my first question to you is, I want you to take us back to who you were when you were in college writing Flyy Girl and College Boy, which was your debut novel, correct? And what it took for you to be able to get those published. What did that look like? How did you sell them? Then what happened when you moved over to Simon & Schuster for the redistribution deal? And then now, 30 years later, going on this press tour with the re-releases of the new covers, how have things changed and evolved in these different stages of your life with Flyy Girl?
That's a long question. You loaded it. Because you got the start, and then you got the middle, and then you got Simon & Schuster, and then the last part. But I'm going to start with the first part. I actually transferred to Howard University after my sophomore year at Pittsburgh. I was a football player. I was not an academic reader. I was smart, but I wasn't a reader. I was picking up information from being there. I wasn't reading books. I was just taking it in. But what happened was when I went to Pittsburgh, us Philadelphians, when we go to Pittsburgh, we got like extra mojo because we like the bigger city, the more, popular city. So when I went to Pittsburgh, they had a way of speaking that was different from us Philadelphians. So they kind of idolized us Philadelphians, and that made me think more about Philadelphia. So when I started writing the Flyy Girl book, that was actually my sophomore year at Pittsburgh, I was hyper thinking Philadelphia. So then I was like, oh, we do this in Philly, we do that in Philly, we say this in Philly. So it got so much, and Pittsburgh helped me to do that, because had I been in Philadelphia, maybe I wouldn't have amplified it so much. But we were so, more advanced in Pittsburgh, I really amplified it, the earrings, how we talk, how we, and so that ended up being the Flyy Girl book, which we were still fly like that, but it made me think about it more because I was in Pittsburgh at the time I wrote it, and I was kind of like showing off for Philadelphia, and that show off, everybody loved it, you know what I mean? So it was one of those deals where I came from the 80s, I didn't have to do research. We did all that. You know what I mean? I was a football player. We had the cheerleaders, and then we had girls that during the times where I call it illegal pharmaceuticals in the 80s. You know, you had a whole lot of guys that had extra money as teenagers, and that wasn't normal. So the girls are like, well, you got all the extra money, you can take me shopping. And so they were very aggressive, you know, the Flyy Girls. And, you know, sometimes we called them gold diggers, but everybody wasn't like that. Tracy had regular friends. Mercedes was like that. And, you know, if you haven't read the book, you understand how that ends up. And then Flyy Girl, Tracy ended up, you know, kind of emulating what Mercedes was doing. But there was a whole lot of other girls that weren't like that. So when they were reading the book, they were like, wow, this girl's really aggressive. She's really, yeah, that was the character. And then I did the sequel book, For the Love of Money. She still had that same personality. She's not going to change. And so then she goes out to Hollywood, and she's a still dominant, I want what I want woman. And so she becomes, you know, Shonda Rhimes, Ava DuVernay, where now she's this writer person. And it was ironic because you had a lot of urban girls that read the first book, and they were like, well, how's she just going to go to Hollywood and be a Hollywood star? I'm like, well, the same energy that allowed her to get all the boys she wanted, she's going to use that same energy to now do what she wanted in Hollywood. And so she's not going to change her personality. And then the third book, when she hits her 30s, then the boss lady thing comes out, you know, because again, it's the same personality where now I got money, now I'm a boss, now I got power. But she was always that kind of person. When you read the first, when she was 6 years old, she had that in her. And so now that whole elevation rather, and then Simon & Schuster picking it up allowed me to get to more people because I was on the East Coast, Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York, New Jersey, Virginia. And then when Simon & Schuster came in, Big Fish Swallow Little Fish is the same thing they do with movies, same thing they do with music. When you doing your own thing, they're going to come in and you want more distribution, you want more capital. And so that happened in 1996 after I was selling a book. Actually, it was 95 because the book didn't come out. They got to prepare the book for the next year. So I got the deal in 95. Then the book came back out in 96. And then I did the sequel book, For the Love of Money, and I put a date on it because books didn't have dates. But I said, you know, black people, we used to buy music on Tuesdays, you know, when I came up. And then, of course, movies on Fridays, and they have dates. So I said, look, I'm going to put a date on this sequel book. So I came out with a Tuesday, August the 15th, 2000, and I promoted that date for 9 months. And I had it on my website, email blasts, I had flyers, I had bookmarks, I did shirts. And then when that date came, we sold 50,000 books in 2 weeks. And they ran out of all their books. They had to do an emergency print run. And I was up for a new contract that year. So I was like, yo, you got it now, boy. And so then we elevated, and then the whole thing of calling them urban books, you know, I started calling that because of radio. And then urban books had taken off, and then a whole lot of people were inspired. You know, then I was competing with all the people that I inspired, you know, because now they're putting books out when the sequel came out, and then the trilogy book, Boss Lady. But yeah, the Simon & Schuster allowed me to reach a lot more people and then become nationwide and then international. But the difference now, social media is a new monster because I used to be able to get interviews when I come to your city. I can get on the radio, I can get print, I can get on the television. Now them guys are like, no, use social media. We're not doing that now. And so now they have interlopers who have contacts to these guys that you got to pay. So now it's like radio again, where they got certain people that you got to butter them, and then they'll call radio. So put them on there. If you don't have those people now, they're like, go to social media. Problem with social media is if I got 15,000 followers and they're not all in Atlanta, they're all over the place. If I'm doing an event in Atlanta, how many do I have in Atlanta? And I can't get regular radio, so nobody knows that I'm doing an event unless they're following me. So now I'm like, this is crazy. So now if you're not following me on social media, you don't know I have an event. And so now it's the new thing where, but here's the deal. Most artists are introverted people. We're not the bragging types. Look at me, look at me, look at me. So now you got the vanity of social media. Look at me, look at me. And then you got people that want to focus on what they're doing artistically. And so now we got to pay for social media people and influencers. So it's really changed now where everybody's trying to figure out how do we market in this new social media age, you know, if it's all about the numbers and social media, because you really don't know. Yeah. And so we're going to be kind of figuring that out for the next 5 years now.
But it seems like you know, as you lament on the new times that you're kind of figuring it out already, especially in your novels. Your later novels, like All Access and Control, they dabble with these kind of ideas, which leads me to my next question. So, if someone has read Fly Girl and For the Love of Money and Boss Lady and love it, what of the other 20 some odd books that you've written would you recommend them look at next? Because you've written about so many different topics.
Mm-hmm. So ask that question again.
Once you read the trilogy and you love it,
Okay.
what's the next book? What next book should they pick up?
The next book?
Of yours should they pick up?
Okay. After they read the Flyy Girl series. Well, I'm a guy, so Just Say No has always been my favorite book because it's masculine. And, you know, of course, I went to school with the guy that's in trouble with all the music stuff at Howard. And I understand it because when you're successful at a young age, you get spoiled and you want to do it again and again and again. And so I've always said this, music is Black people's #1 art form. Movies for white people, but we still don't get enough movies to be #1 for, it's music for us. So our musicians, dude, you start talking about, you know, Smokey Robinson and, you know, the Motown people, and then the Philadelphia International Records. We had what's the guy named Teddy Pendergrass, you know, and DC had Marvin Gaye. But these dudes, man, Sam Cooke, they can get in so much trouble because you love them so much, man. You know what I mean? So I wanted to write that book to understand that whole discipline. Can you say no to so much attention? You know, women loving you everywhere you go. You know what I mean? Immediately, one night stands like they're wanting it. And it's like, how do you say no to that every single night? You know, you're a musician. And so that book is my biggest book. I wrote 25 original songs in that book. It's definitely a movie idea. And when I wrote it, I think Usher was the hot dude then. And then years later, you know, of course, Chris Brown ended up getting in mega trouble. And now I don't know, as the R&B thing is not as hot. The Weeknd is out of Canada, and they got a couple other guys, but they're not as big as the R&B guys that we grew up in. And now it's like they don't get that same stature. But that was my favorite book, Just Say No. My favorite character, Leslie in New Orleans. Yeah, Leslie. You know, so everybody loves Fly Girl, but for me, it's more about the city of Philadelphia, because, you know what I mean? The Fly Girl is like, that whole book is a cultural representation of the 80s, which was the most materialistic era ever. And then, you know, Fly Girl being from Philadelphia. But Leslie Baudet, you know, my Haitian Native American sister out of New Orleans, that's my favorite character. And I wanted to do a trilogy series with her. But by the time that book came out, I had so much competition from new writers that it never impacted the way it needed to, because it come out in hardback at $25 and everybody was selling $10 books. So Leslie got hit with a price tag where a lot of people didn't get that book, but that book was heavyweight. You know what I mean? I love Leslie, you know, so those are the two books that, you know, and all the other books, I love all my books because they all say something different. But Just Say No and Leslie, you know, Fly Girl will probably be down at like #5. But since it's from Philadelphia, I'm going to represent my city, definitely.
Definitely. I'm glad I asked that because both of those are my favorites too. So I'm glad you said those. But that actually brings up a question that I don't have on here, which is how do you develop your characters? Whether they are in New Orleans or Philadelphia, whether they are women or men, you have such full and rich characters. They are so believable. What is it that happens in your brain as you are writing that you are able to interpolate what you see in the world into these relatable characters that stay with us for 30 plus years?
Yeah. Okay. So I always tell this story now. My mother was the oldest of 8. My father was the oldest of 4, both in West Philadelphia. They're from the baby boom era. I'm not from that era, but I grew up with my aunts and uncles, because when you're the oldest grandson, I have an uncle that's 2 years older than me, and I grew up with him. And so he was like, don't call me uncle, stop calling me uncle, because he made him feel old. He's 2 years old, you know, I'm calling him Uncle Joe, I'm 6 and he's 8. You know what I mean? So he's like, don't call me Uncle Joe. So with that, I grew up around people that were doing stuff I wasn't supposed to see. I wasn't in a nuclear household with just mom and dad. I got cousins and aunts and uncles all around me. You know, I had an aunt that was 5 years old, and we arguing over the television. I'm 5 and she's 11. So I'm battling with aunt. So around that, I'm around a lot of grown stuff all the time. And so I'm studying people, what they do, what they don't do. And then I was a mimic, you know, comedians mimic voices and mimic so I know exactly what you said, how you said it, what accent it was in, and I would do voices and stuff. And then my uncles, they found out my mom being the oldest, you know, we want to babysit the nephew, but we want to go to the movies and we need some money. So my mother would give my uncles money to babysit me all day at the movies, and back then it was triple features and kung fu movies. So we go to the movies, we in there for 6 hours, and I'm watching movies 5, 6, 7, 8, but I had an attention span. So my uncles figured out real quick, like, we can take him to the movies, he will watch 3 movies and then come out and do the movie scenes. So then they was like, yo, so then we would come back from West Philly. We had this movie theater at 52nd Street. We lived on 38. So we would walk up there. This is back in the day. We walk up there. And my uncle Andre was older. He was like 10 years older than me. And my uncle Monte was 7. So they were both old. But Andre, the oldest, he was a storyteller. And I'm talking about you could just point a person out and he'd tell a story. And then Mac became the instigator. And so we walking up to the movie theater, you know, for a good 40 minutes, and Mac would instigate. Hey, Ange, look at this girl with all the hair over here. And then Ange would look at her. Yeah, she's from the werewolf family at Moonlight. You know, they got all kind of hair growth. And then Mac would be like, hey, Ange, look at this dude with the big feet over here. And then Ange said, oh, he from the Jesus Walk the Water clan. They got big feet. They can walk across the Nile River. And so I'm the little kid listening to all this. Ange is like everything he make a story out of. So I picked it up, and then my whole family loved movies. They was movie fanatics, and I was always going with them. And so I'm watching all the movies. It's not reading stuff, it's watching. And then I lived in West Philly. If you ever been to Philadelphia, it's row house. Everybody lives right close. It's tight. So you come outside, there's 300 people on your block right in front of you. So there's stories all the time. There are people fighting and getting it. And this is the 70s. You know, we ain't had no television and, you know, the stuff like, we outside creating stories. You know, my phone going off right now, that's a story. So I became a person that I studied people all the time, what you do, and I'm an introvert. So I'm always watching, and then I had older people. So now, when I became a teenager, all the dudes that's fighting, all the dudes that got reps, all the dudes that got game for the girls, all the girls that guys talking about, I'm hearing it, I see it, I got it, and I play football, so I know all these dudes. I roll out with them, and so everything that I'm seeing, she says this, she says that, she does this, she lives here, he does this, I'm on all of it. And then when we go to parties or anything like that, if you get it wrong, I'm gonna correct you. That ain't how it happened. This is how it happened. So I was a verbal storyteller. When I got to Pittsburgh and they started asking you to write because they want to see what your writing skills were, and then I'm in Pittsburgh, I'm from Philly, and they was like, we want you to write about your hobbies, your friends, and I was like, whoa, you want me to write about Philly? Like you want to, and they was like, yeah. And then I put all the lingo and then it was like, the teachers were like, yo, this is exceptional. He has all the details. He got all the lingo. And then they wanted me to read it in front of the other classmates. I'm a freshman, 18 years old. The classmates is like, yo, dude. Then they started copying me and they started putting more detail to that. Then I passed into the highest level of English and got an A, and now I'm with white students. And I'm a black student, got an A in the highest level. So at that point, I'm like, you know you got to get, you know, a skill. Either you're going to put up or shut up, you know, and I didn't want to become a coulda, woulda, shoulda person. I could have did that, I should have. I said, I'm going to go right at it. You know, so I had people that challenged me and said, man, you know so much, you tell stories, why don't you write a book or something? Sophomore year. And I was like, all right, I'm going to write me a book. And that was it, man. I started writing the first couple of books, 1989. I was 19 and 20 when I was writing Flyy Girl. I'm an Aries, so my birthday was in April. I started writing it in March and finished it in late April. So I always say 19 and 20. And then in 19 and 20, you can be honest. So I was very brutally honest with Flyy Girl. And so now people look at it, why you got this in the book? Because that's what we did. But when you get older, you start taking stuff out because now you're like, oh, I can't put that in there. I can't put that in. So if I had written Flyy Girl at 29, I wouldn't have had the honesty at 19. At 19, I'm still a teenager. So I'm not looking at it like, oh, I can't write about a 14-year-old. I'm only 19. So the honesty came out with me being so young, but that's how I got to be a storyteller. I was around storytellers, around older people all the time. So I was always getting knowledge from older. I was used to being around them. You know, so it's different now when the young people look at older people like they want to get rid of us and throw us in the graveyard. Because I grew up idolizing older people. You know what I mean? Like, I can't wait till I get old. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Even my Uncle George, he had a gray afro because we got hair in my family, so nobody's bald. So I'm going to have me a gray afro like Uncle George. You know, so my hair ain't gray yet, but when it gets there, you know. So yeah, I came up that way as a storyteller, and then I went from verbal to now print. But I still know how to tell them verbally. And I'm really trying to press to get into them because they really don't know me. I really started telling stories through television and film, particularly the film. You know, and then being out there, I was not a book reader. But then once I started reading books and getting into it, then I started reading a lot more. But I started telling stories through being there, you know, not reading books.
That's awesome, isn't it? So I also was in high achieving English classes, and I do attribute that to me becoming a professor of African American literature. The other side for me, I was in the same kind of setup with, I was at a public school. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in a very Black neighborhood. However, the students that were in my class did not look like me, and the literature that we usually read was not any type of reflection of who I am. So when I picked up Flyy Girl and Tracy Ellison has hazel eyes and big hair and she's attracting all the boys, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Is this Laura Hill? You strumming my pain? What's happening here?
Yeah.
I appreciated the candor and the honesty that your book had, that I felt like a lot of the other books that I was required to read didn't have. And at that time, I saw that you named yourself an urban griot.
Right.
And I was so attracted to this term because it felt like you were not only creating your own lane with how you were writing your books, but you also decided to name yourself.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about when you first decided to start calling yourself an urban griot? What does that mean to you? And how has that evolved as you continue to write?
Right. Yeah, the griot, Griot, that is the African storyteller, and that's what I am. So you can't, and then to put the urban's just a catchword for Black, inner city Black, you know. So they started doing that with radio, and I copied it. Urban top 40, urban adult, urban. So I was like, all right, you know they talking about us. You know what I mean? They calling it urban now. And I was in D.C. with Kathy Hughes, so she was right there next to me. And Kathy Hughes is big time always. And this is before she got Radio 1. She still was on local radio, AM, WOL. It was like 8th and 8th Street in Northeast DC. So I'm right there with her, you know, and she would always say to me, "Got time to pay the bills," when she played, you know, stuff. And so I used that term, but in developing the characters and everything I was doing, I'm looking at it like, okay, these are lessons of life. So it's not just, you know, me creating a character. I'm looking at the whole community and the society and saying, what is to be learned from this character. So I remember I was on a panel discussion with Eric Jerome Dickey one year, and he was saying that, you know, yeah, rest in peace to Eric, man, that was crazy. But he was saying one year that he doesn't write stories to say, and the lesson is. And when he said that, I was like, I do write stories, you know what I mean? Because I'm on a different side of that. So I've always been, since I grew up with older people, there's a lesson involved in everything. And I understood that. So when I started calling myself the urban griot, I'm like, I am a storyteller with lessons and a lot of wisdom, because I was older than my age. You know, I was 8 going on 12. I'm 12 going on 16. Even when I came to Howard, I had transferred. I was 20. When I came on Howard's campus, I was like a mature adult around other kids. I'm walking around Howard like, man, these guys is kids. And I had already went to Pitt, so I had already had the PWI experience. And then I came out, they hadn't had that. So I had both of them. Then I had friends visiting me at Howard from Pittsburgh, you know, for the culture. But I started calling myself the griot because I understood what it was. And that's exactly what I was doing. And that's what rappers do. They got all these names and stuff. So I'm coming from the era of rappers who are all claiming names, claiming who they are. They changed their names. So we always do that. You know, so I was a person that was dictating terms. And then I'm the oldest grandson. So I'm an authority all the time. So as an authoritative person, I said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and decree, I'm going to do it. But I've always been that way. And so I put urban classics on the books, Flyy Girl, and I did another book called Capital City. I had not even sold the book yet. And I put urban classic on the book because I said, I'm the first one doing it. So when you're the first one to do it, it's classic. So all I got to do is make sure you get it, right? So, I put it on the book, and that was it. So I kept rolling with it, and then I was doing poetry. Jill Scott out of North Philly, she was in North Philly. I was out of West Philly. I came back to Philly and was doing poetry in the hubs, and Jill Scott was there. We all knew each other, and that was before she blew up with the music thing. So in that, we were all griots telling stories, doing poetry in the houses. And so I said, yeah, I'm the urban griot. Then I started the whole website and all that. And now my son calls himself Griot Noy. He's a rapper. Yeah, so he picked up on the word. And now he explains to people it's a storyteller, the African, And so, yeah, it's just a part of the culture thing. And I'm always in the culture, so I'm always finding out stuff like that. So, now I'm part of the council of the elders, being the older dude, I was a young buck back then. But yes, that's how you claim what you are and do it. Now, I am a griot. Nobody can take that away from me. In the urban, all that means is inner city black. And if you ever been to Philadelphia, it ain't no more inner city black than Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Like Baltimore is another one, inner city, So yeah, I'm from that place that you definitely gonna claim that. Definitely.
That is so awesome. I did not expect all of that and the answer, and I just simply love that your son is following in the tradition. Um, but that brings me to wanting to ask you about this other side of being this kind of storyteller, which almost feels like you are a prophet in a certain kind of way. Thinking about the trilogy of Flyy Girl and where we are today with the rate of education between Black women and Black men, and thinking about the evolution of the Flyy Girl becoming boss lady, and recognizing that to be a boss lady as a Black woman oftentimes means that you are in a situation with, if you want to date Black men, they are often less educated and make less money than you do. And that kind of friction that comes into play with the kind of expectations of men and women in relationships. And those are some of the ideas that you're talking about in Boss Lady. How did you know that this is where we would be in 2025?
Yeah. I got in trouble on the podcast because, yeah, I got in trouble on the podcast because, it's like the podcast can be mostly feminine or mostly because everybody can pick and choose where they want to be now. And a lot of people had never heard me speak. They just know Omar Tyree wrote. So I don't know what kind of guy they were thinking I was. He got a lot of sisters, a lot of women. But if you talk to the dudes that I played football with in Philadelphia, they're like, he a regular dude like us. We didn't know he was going to do the writing stuff. We know he could do voices and tell stories. So it was a shock to all the guys. But women have never heard me speak. And so over time, I'm 56 now. So when you get 56, you're not hanging around young people. You got your own circle. So I got older men I'm hanging around, and older men speak a certain way because we all been raised in a certain, so we all on this whole heavy older men thing. So I get on this podcast where they got young women that I haven't been around, and I'm like, wow, older men talk about this stuff. So then I became old, and out of date and out of touch. And I'm hearing all this talk about, I'm a boss. And I'm thinking about men, and I'm like, well, how's that going to, match up with guys that just like, if you the boss, then what's my role? And so I'm watching this, and then I'm reading stuff where a lot of young girls are like, well, I can do better, and I can do better. And I'm reading that specifically. You can do better. So what they're saying is, you're not enough, you know what I mean, for me to respect you in this position unless you're going to do more than me. You know what I mean? So now I'm looking at that like, wow. Now, I was pushed hard as a kid. My mom was a go-getter, but she married a man that had less money than her, but he was very masculine. So my mom went out and married a 6'4", 230-pound Overbrook High School monster. And this dude was the type of dude to say, look here, I'm going to tell you one time to take out the trash. If I tell you again, I'm going to put my size 13s in your ass. And he meant it. Now, I was already a rough kid because I was coming from the bottom of West Philly, but now he made it even rougher. So now, as they say, iron sharpens iron, I've always been a dutiful dude. I don't argue about stuff I'm supposed to do. I get it done, but I'm a man. So now, you start dealing with a man, you know what I mean? I'm around dude. And so you start saying stuff that we might not gel with. I'm going to say something. These new dudes may not, and a lot of it's based upon sexuality. And we've been doing that since we were high school kids. When you say the wrong thing to a girl, and a dude that knows how to get girls, he's like, no, don't say that. This is what you tell her. So guys learn how to lie their behinds off and not say whatever's going to piss her off, because at the end of the day, you thinking, I want to get in bed with her. And I'm 56 years old. Men that are married will go in another room and then talk about their wives when the wives, it's unbelievable. So I'm on this podcast and the Eagles had just won the Super Bowl. So I'm pumped up, dude. I got the Eagles hat on. I got the Eagles jersey. And I'm talking about all this masculine stuff. And I got all women on the podcast. And they're disagreeing till the cows come home. And I'm like, you can disagree, but I'm around men all the time. So now I got to the point where I'm like, whoa, you guys really have a wrong disposition about who men are and what we think about what we do, because men don't tell them that. They don't say it. They don't want to. So here I am, the knucklehead, saying it. And are we going to cancel you? So then I was like, well, I see why men don't say it. So men already understand, do not go in there and say that, Omar. And so I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, this is not going to work. Because now you got guys that are afraid to tell women things based on sexuality. And then later on, if he don't agree with you, he never agreed with you. Now he gets what they call getting ghost, where he just disappeared and didn't say why he disappeared. And my pop, 6'4", he would call that a punk. You not gonna say, and he told me every day, I ain't raising no punks. You gonna say what you say. Now you got dudes that ain't raised by fathers, and they trying to get along, and they not saying what it is. Now you got this wishy-washy stuff. I'm like, dude, so I'm watching this like, how are guys gonna evolve in this new thing, right? And then the dudes that got money like that, some of the girls like, well, I don't wanna deal with him. I want his money though. So now you got girls that get athlete money, get pregnant, take the money, keep the kid. And I'm looking at this like, damn, she don't even want the man. She want the money and the kid. It's crazy. So I'm watching all of this like, whoa, we really need to sit down and talk now. And now more young women are getting more dominant, more masculine, and more wanting with expectations. And that's not bad. But when you start throwing the men out with the water, because he can't, match up to what your expectations are, then it's like, okay, who you gonna marry now? So we come back to the book. Boss lady, Tracy, is unmarried with no kids. And the last time I checked, Oprah Winfrey, unmarried with no kids. And then her friend what's that? King, what's her name? Her best friend? Yeah. Does she have a marriage and any kids? So now you got women that once you get in that position, if you like at this dominant position, guys are like, I'm not gonna be under, guys are guys. And I know because I'm around them. Like, yo, dude, he's not gonna, but he may not say anything because now his sexuality is predicated on keeping you in a good mood. Now I'm a griot, so I'm gonna say it anyway, but they look at me like, that's why you can't get no woman now, Omar. You done pissed them all off. I'm not trying to do that, right? So they will lie to you. They will tell you what you wanna hear, and that's what tell her what she wanna hear. I've been hearing that since I was 12 years old. Tell her what she wants to hear. And so we get into these female fantasies, and trust me, I played football. We got the biggest locker room. There's a character named Victor Henson. I played football with him. He's a real dude. Played football with me. He would tell me on Monday, watch I get her panties by Thursday. And then bring her panties in his book bag to school. We in high school. He knows how to get girls, but he's lying his behind off. I'm not lying. I would tell a girl the truth. I love you. I love how I'm going to take you to the movies. And girls are like, boy, he sound like he's serious. I'm scared of him because I was honest, right? But this dude would do for crazy nothings and all that. So I learned really early on, and I know him, so I could write all that Victor Henson guy. I know this dude well. I know how he gets down. But when you got guys who are honest to tell you, you got to be able to understand this is the dude. Even if I don't like it, let's get to it. But when you get dudes that tell you what you want to hear, they've been doing that forever, man. It's never going to lead to real truth and understanding. And so now, even if you don't like what I have to say, you have to interpret that's how men think and then get to the truth of it, because guys are always hesitating. If you just tell me the truth, but guys thinking like, if I tell her the truth and she don't like it. Every man is thinking that. And I just know that now. So that's where we are now with this evolution where what is going to be the new man? Because we still going to be men. You know, and I'm telling women right now, like, do not take the spear away from your men. I'm a real warrior. Now, I'm an intellectual warrior. If we got to go physical, I can do that too, but I haven't had to. You see what I'm talking about? But I'm a real warrior. And the reason why we need that, right now, we got a president that knows that we got soft. And so he's going extra hard. And he got a friend, Elon Musk, that's going extra hard too. And so when you do that where nobody in your community flex their muscles, nobody got the gun, nobody got the military, that's a dangerous position to be in. So I tell sisters, everybody's not a warrior, but don't try to make all your dudes pacifists and you're not negotiators. You got to have some dudes that's going to throw that spear, that's going to shoot that gun. You got to have that. Every culture. So you can't make everybody docile. So I'm going to end that with this. Denzel Washington is the epitome of masculine, macho alpha. His wife, Pamela Washington, pushes him in that position and keeps him there. She edifies him all the time. She don't beat him up. She don't take that away from him because she understands we need that. And Denzel was that. He's the apex dude, 70 years old. When that dude talks, I'm like, damn, he said that. But that's what we need. And that's why all the actors go to Denzel and say he's that dude because he's not catering to nobody. Nobody. And that's what you really need. Everybody ain't supposed to be as docile and to go, no, we need some Denzels when we need them Denzels. And so I'm putting him out there because he's the most physical, mental, spiritual, when you talk about black male power. And when he was first coming out, he made a very clear statement that I am not Sidney Poitier, okay? Because I came up with Sidney Poitier. Sidney Poitier is a very refined, respectable black man. Denzel was like, I don't want to be that damn refined. When I need to kick the damn door in, I want to kick the damn door in. So Denzel did that on purpose. I don't want to be Sidney Poitier. When it's time for me to grab my spear, I'm going to grab my damn spear. And we have to understand we need, everybody ain't going to be Omar. But do not make Omar some docile dude. I'm supposed to be who I am. Love me as I am. I love you as you are. When it's time to go to war, guess who's going to speak first? You know? So that's very important.
He's going to leave here with something.
But I love y'all.
and you know, however it goes. So I have one more question. I was told I only have one more question before we open it up to the audience. I'm sure you guys have wonderful questions to ask Omar. But I don't want to leave it where you have it, right? Where it's okay, you have these boss women over here that expect a docile man and just want to be lied to. And then you have these dominant men over here that will say, I'd rather go it alone than to lie to women or to give up my masculine identity or however they want to present being a man.
Right.
There has to be some kind of middle ground, right? Are you going to put that in a novel?
Say that it has to be what?
There has to be a middle ground for that between the boss women over here.
If you guys all have that, I done came up. So here we go. We're going to deal with this right now. So you can read the levels, all right? But this chart, you guys all have it. I came up with this chart. It's only 3 levels of masculine energy. So if you guys don't all have it, we got some more flyers we're going to hand out. But I came up with this chart because it is a middle ground. That green ground is the biggest. And those are the most negotiable men. The marriage will last the longest with those dudes in the green because they know how to negotiate. But they are not the dudes that push society forward. The red dudes do. I'm a red dude. I'm an Aries. That's the fire sign. I'm a diamond. I'm a hard rock dude. We are the most honest dudes out here. Eddie Murphy is another Aries. And in the 80s, he had a couple concerts, Delirious and Raw, where he got real raw. And I look back at it now, I'm like, damn, Eddie got away with that? Because it was women in the audience too. But Eddie Murphy said some stuff, dude, in the 80s that was heavyweight material when he's talking about gender issues and all that. You know what I mean? But this is what it is. Eddie Murphy is up at the top of the 8. You already know. You know, so when you're dealing with different dudes, if you read that, we're going to run through it right quick. So you read the characteristics of the top guys.
High
Here you
energy,
go.
ambitious, dominant, urgent, uncompromising, red bloods, ready for war.
And stop right there. Now, ambitious. I've always been ambitious. You got some men that, oh, I just want to get a job. The type ones, we want everything. Denzel was ambitious. Allen Iverson, all the athletes, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all the guys that have names, trust me, ambition galore. That's how we're built. But you got other guys, I just want to get a job. I just want to, they don't have that same ambition. You see what I'm talking about? Then go to the next one.
Level 2, moderate.
No, right here, the dominant part. Yeah, just stay on that part. Yeah.
Oh, urgent,
The
7 to
dominant, just
10.
sort of across the line.
Uncompromising, red bloods.
Yeah, so the dominant part, that's the same thing. Again, I'm the oldest grandson. So I was born into a position of authority. I got 2 younger brothers, all younger cousins, and so I was in authority immediately. And then I'm an Aries, which is the leader sign. So it's like I can't get around that. So I'm not a type of person that's waiting for people's decisions. I'm like, let's do this, let's do that. And it's always like, well, who gave you the, look here, what y'all want to do? Y'all want to do something else? Well, we don't want, well, that's why we doing what I want to do. Because y'all don't know what y'all want to do. So I'm never a person that's hesitating on what I did. I'm going to make a decision fast, let's do it. You know what I mean? That's dominant behavior. Urgent, I'm always, let's do it right now. Martin Luther King, like, we can't wait for our rights forever. We got to do this now. So you get them dominant men like, no, we got to do this now. We're not waiting, you know. Then the other one, uncompromising. When we got to do what we got to do, nobody's getting in front of us. And that's the difference. You know, when you got to uncompromise, no, I cannot compromise what I need to do. So if we bring up the 2 dominant dudes, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, both had wives that knew they can both die every time they leave this door. But they couldn't jump in front of them because they were doing something that was bigger than everything. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama could not tell him, you can't run for president, I don't want to be the first lady. That would have messed us all up. Michelle right now is still talking about that. Every time she opens her mouth, dealing with how she had to negotiate Barack wanting to run for president when I have a Harvard degree and I want to be a lawyer. And now I got to be first lady. And then when she first became first lady, remember how they were beating her up all the time about her dress code and her makeup? It was horrible. But she had to deal with that because she can't tell Barack Obama not to run for president, which is a type 1 thing, right? And I'm going to tell you the book he had, The Audacity of Hope. That word, I'm a word master, audacity. That word in itself means you going for something high. They've always been saying about, how dare you, Omar? Who do you think you are? They've been asking me that my whole life. Because whenever you aim that high, they're like, who told you that? Then they call you arrogant. Because they try to take my intelligence. And since I was this high, like, you're not going to take my stuff. So we got black people that make excuses for being smart. We can be athletes, we can be rappers, we can be gigolos, but when you smart, you got to make excuses. Oh, I got lucky on the test. Oh, I'm like, hell, I'm not doing that. You know, I got an A. What did you get? So I was a dominant smart, but when you do that, you think you know, and black people beat you up. Oh, he think he knows something. You think you want, I'm like, yeah, I do. What you want? You know, because we're back down from everything else, but when you smart, you got to, you know what I mean? You almost got to be, you know, non-masculine. And I'm like, yo, dude, so I always call myself a hardcore intellectual. You know, going back to the 50s and 60s, say I'm in the wrong era. Because we had smart college men leading the movement back then. Then they understood we're in a position to lead this thing. And so, yeah, this thing is very important because I understand it. I've been around men forever. But that's the dominant guys. That's the guy. And this is very small. Very small. Then you get to the green. Go ahead and read the green now.
You want me to read all of them or just one? Okay. Practical, situational, patient, negotiable, green bloods, go. We'll think about it.
We'll think about it. The brothers on the level 2 will negotiate with the woman. You make more than, okay, I'll watch the kid. Them brothers are high on respect. I'm already giving you all the power you want. Don't disrespect me. Now, this is what happens. When you have a girl that's not used to brothers being nice to them, then they get bored. Or something bored. He do everything I tell him to do. He always on time. Something bored. So they got to pick a knucklehead because they bored with the dude, and then that dude going, you disrespect him, shoot ever. Them dudes are hot because he's already giving you that respect. But if you respect him, those are the marriages that last the longest because he's already giving you what you really want. But you have to be mature enough to respect that man giving you that. And that's what my mother did. I had a guy that, you know, he was a big dude, he was a hardcore discipline, but my mother respected him as a man and didn't get rid of him talking about I can do better, I can do more. She understood I need a man raising my Omar because Omar is a handful. You know what I mean? So she wasn't trying to do by herself. She knew she got what my pop is a handful. So she already knew his genetic gene, you know, I need a man, and that's what she got. And so I end up becoming what they call iron out. So now I got 2 sons, they men. They do what they supposed to do because I raised them that way. So it ain't no argument, negotiation, ain't no video games all night with no job. You know what I mean? You're gonna go get your job. And so that's what you're talking about with the green dudes negotiating, but that level of energy is lower. Right now I'm loud, I got the veins. We got a lot of, and it's in our system. You can't get it out. The green brothers more relaxed, more, baby, go out and get, I'm gonna get you this, smoother dudes. They might not make as much money, they might not go after because they don't have that energy, but he's gonna take care of you better. He's gonna be around you more. He's gonna do more of the stuff that you want. Omar might say, no, I ain't doing that. You see what I'm talking about? So you got different men. You gotta deal with that. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they gonna do what they wanna do. Both of them wives had to deal with that. You know, so that's the difference. That green dude, that's why that pyramid is the biggest. That's the one you need to be with. He will think about it and get it done. Okay. And then you got the last one.
We don't have to spend too much time on these ones, but we'll go through it. Apathetic, recessive, hesitant, impressionable, yellow bloods, caution, waiting for a miracle.
And these are brothers. What should I do? Should I get a job? Should I go to college? They always asking. You're like, what are you talking about? Go get the job. Why are you even asking me this? Right? They are constantly, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Yeah, I don't know. Dude, what are you waiting on? So these dudes here, you got to pray for them. It's like you waiting for them. What is going on, man? What are you doing? You know? And so those are the brothers that end up being intimidated by women that I'm never intimidated, but in America, you can only marry one woman. So when I started, it's America. You can only marry one woman. So when I started doing book tours, I was hearing that all the time. Guys are so intimidated. And I'm like, I'm not intimidated, but I'm in America and I'm already married. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I hear that. Ain't nothing I can do. And then I'm never around guys because they don't read books. But when I do get around them, they know like, oh, he a real dude, like, you know. But you can't get him to read books, so I got to get to that movie like. But this thing here is not going to change. I know, men. You can go to the website at blackmeninamerica.com and read my whole article, The Elevation and Evolution of the American Black Woman, and you'll have all the charts, and then we break it down even more because we got 4 types of men, but you got on that fly. Mr. Dominant, Mr. Nego, we all use at some point. When you in college, you ain't married, you ain't, ain't a girlfriend, boyfriend, we all using sexually in college. Everybody's practicing and stuff in college, so you're gonna go through that period. You don't wanna get stuck there though, but you get grown men that get stuck there, and the best skill they have is understand women's emotions. You got guys that know what to say, what to do. They ain't got no job, they ain't gonna do nothing else, but they know how to make you feel good. Now, I may not be that dude that knows how to make you feel good because I got other things on my mind that's more important that I need to do. Then you say, oh, you're not in tune. So now they got this new word. Emotional intelligence is the new word. Now, I want to grab this quickly, right? When I was 4 years old with my uncles in West Philadelphia, this is the basement right here. This wall to that wall. We played football in the basement, and we have to tag the wall for a touchdown. My uncles and their friends and my cousins are on their knees because I'm 4 years old. They like 9, 10, 11. I got to run. So if they tackle me, we got hard concrete floors. If I hit my elbow, my knee, my shoulder, my head, and I start crying, grandmom upstairs is going to tell us to stop. So this is what happened. Every time I got hurt, take it like a man. Take it like a man. Don't say nothing. I'm 4 years old. I'm hurting like a mug, but I don't want to, disrespect or not stand up to my uncles, my cousins, and their friends. I'm 4 years old. Then you go out 60s to take it like, don't act like no girl, don't talk like no girl, don't walk like no girl, don't think like no girl. A man takes his, we get all this masculine stuff. Then I hook up with a girl at Howard. You don't have sympathy. You're not gentle. Who was supposed to teach me this? Every single day, a man does this, a man does that, a man takes care of it. Then I end up with a stepfather, 6'4", 230. I ain't raising no punk. A man does the man. All I know is masculine, Now I got a woman. You gotta be soft. You have to. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna need some time.
Therapy.
For real.
And therapy.
Yeah, and then, so what's going on now? Men that's been raised in masculine situations, we're not gonna have emotional intelligence like that. Because we've been raised as these Neanderthal dudes. But here's the difference. We will handle our business. I'll tell you that.
I hear you. I also think that there's room
This
for all
all
of it, but we're gonna create some room for the audience too. So we're gonna open it up for questions now. Does anyone have a question for Omar?
We got to pass that mic around.
You can say it out loud. I'm right here.
Is that just have them stand up? No, there's a question up here.
Does that mic work?
Oh,
She go first. Go ahead.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, if you hear it, then you train, because I
got
got
you.
that bad ears.
Okay. I hear all that you're saying, the different types of men about being masculine, and you're in level, the first level, the red level. But nowadays, a lot of men are talking about all that you went through. Be a man, be tough. But they need therapy. So how do you navigate through that? They're messed up mentally because they had to be hard and they don't know how to be gentle and soft. So they need to see therapists now.
Okay, go ahead.
yeah. So she's asking about what do we do today? So men like you who have had these experiences where there's an expectation of having this kind of hyper masculine presenting performance of masculinity. Today, that is that in the same ways that Eddie Murphy, Raw, and Delirious played in the 80s and the 90s. Today, you watch that and most people cringe. So recognizing that times have changed quite a bit. And to say those things in today, people are like, well, you need therapy. How do you navigate that?
Mm-hmm. I got a book called Single Mom that I put out, I think it was 1998. It was 71% single mother households in Black America. Now we're at 73. So it didn't go up that big, but it didn't go down. So we still got to figure out whether we got extra masculine or extra emotional intelligence. How do we stay together? How do we stay together? And so I was telling women, like, if you get involved with a Denzel Washington, you are forced to love him harder. If you got a public figure, all the nonsense is going to come. You got to love. So you got to have tougher skin. If you're going to date that Moses, if you're going to date Abraham, if you're going to date Noah. Because when they get that calling, it's going to be more weight on you. So that's why I bring up Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz again. They had a lot of weight on their shoulders. It ain't for everybody. So when you get with these dudes, again, I'm going to bring up Denzel Washington. Look at Pamela Washington's interviews. And she said it like she was an actress before he was. And he went right past her. She didn't get jealous and pulled him back. She said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm his wife. And I love how they do that together because he edifies her. Because he knows she backs me. And of course, we know Denzel's been in some trouble. And you already know that every woman loves Denzel. Pamela got to deal with that. So you have to, if you're going to go up that scale, you got to know what you're dealing with. And I tell women all the time, if you dealing with an Allen Iverson, that dude, you dealing with a Kobe Bryant, a Magic Johnson, all them dudes, man, their egos and ambition is sky high. Rappers in general, them dudes is insane with it. So when you dealing with them guys, you have to know when you go in there. Otherwise, that's why I got this chart. I got to warn women, You have to know what you're getting involved with. It may be sexy to date that dude, but when you're talking about marrying him, if you can't take it, you can't be there. I did a book with a mayor in DC, Marion Barry. And I'm telling you right now, Marion Barry gave a lot to the people, but he had a whole lot in him. So if you dealing with Marion Barry, it's like, yo, he is a man of the people. But if you his woman, I'm telling you, you gotta love him harder. And it's just what it is. So I watch a lot of the Animal Kingdom. And when you watch the lion stuff, you go home and watch that lion. When the male lion, dude, and the tiger is supposed to be more vicious than the lion, but he don't have that mane thing. So when that male lion come out with the mane, it vicious. And then they got what they call coalitions, where the male lions got like 2 and 3 brothers. And when you see 5 male lions, but it is the most, but that's what I'm telling you, when you got men and I'm around them, I know how men get, they tone it down for women. A lot. We tone it down. But when you around men, I know how vicious they are. When you get with these dudes at the top of you got to know what you're dealing with. It ain't for everybody. But we still have to have it in our community because like I said earlier, when it's time for war, you need your warriors.
Yes.
I just want to know, I heard you talk a lot about your novels, but what were some of the challenges that you had in a particular novel?
What are some of the challenges you had in writing some of your novels?
I didn't have it. I think the biggest challenge for me is marketing. It's getting everybody to know what, that's why I want to go to film. But as far as writing, the biggest challenge was Marion Barry because it was his story, because I can do my own research, but if it's his story, I got to wait for him. And then he would have days where he was on dialysis, and so I would wait for 3 hours because he's still working in the office, and then he'd come out, Omar, I'm a little sad, Omar, you got to come back tomorrow, Omar, come back tomorrow. And I'm like, dude, I've been waiting 3 hours, you talking about come back tomorrow? So that it took us 11 months because he had, physical issues and I couldn't get all the stuff I needed. So I'm sitting, that was the most patient. I had to be patient in that. I had to be the green dude because now I'm at his beck and call as his writer. You know what I mean? So that was the hard, but other than that, I'm fast, I do my research, I'm on point with it. And I always put out stuff that I'm going to battle for. So I don't put out stuff where I'm going to back down. I'm like, and that's why it's difficult for me to deal with Hollywood. Because here's the deal. Hollywood likes to change your stuff. Now, y'all know now, I'm not the dude you're going to change. Now, I'm going to name some names. Are you going to change Spike Lee's stuff? Are you going to change Tyler Perry's stuff? Are you going to change Will Packer's stuff? Are you going to change John Singleton's stuff? Are you going to change Ryan Coogler's stuff? Are you going to change Jordan Peele's stuff? I'm giving y'all personalities. Are you going to change Shonda Rhimes' stuff? Are you going to change Ava DuVernay? So when you get around people that want, I can't know, and so that he's difficult to deal with. Hell yeah, because you're not going to put me in front of Philadelphians, change my movie, and then get me to talk about it when I told y'all not to do it. I'm not doing that. You got the wrong man.
Oh, I just turned it back.
Thank you. No, yeah, we do. But since we don't have that, you can ask him all your questions at the signing line after, but give them a round of applause. Thank you. Dr. Saffold, you did an amazing job. Thank you. Thank you, Omar. Thank you.